Welcome to another DragonLance Saga review episode. My name is Adam. It is Kirinor Paleswelt the 24th, and today I'm going to give you my spoiler review of The Ultimate Helm by Russ T. Howard. Now, I will be spoiling this story, so if you don't want to know it, stop watching now. I would like to take a moment and thank the members of this channel and invite you to consider becoming a member by visiting the links in the description below. You can even pick up DragonLance gaming materials using my affiliate link. All right, that all being said, the way this works is I'm going to give you my pre-written review of basically the synopsis of the story, and then just sort of riff on some of the ideas, the characters, the themes, and because this is the final book in a 6-series Cloakmaster Cycle, as it's called, I'm going to sort of give my overview perspective of what this entire cycle, sextet is really what we're referring to it as, how it felt, whether it really landed or not, and whether or not I would recommend it to anyone else. Of course, if you have any questions or comments throughout the course of this, if you've read this book, throw it up in the live chat if you happen to be catching this live, and if not, that's okay too. You can always put it in the chat, or you can always email me at info@dlsaga.com. So, hey Chris, how you doing, man? Let's see. Again, this is my perspective only. If yours differs, that's okay. Let me know in the chat, and we'll have a bit of a back and forth, a little discussion about it. No name calling, though. Well, who knows? Maybe there's going to be name calling. I'm going to leave the option open, though I would, I don't know, not suggest it, I guess. Let's not devolve to name calling. Unless we have to. Sometimes you have to, right? Okay. We begin with the end of the last novel, and the SpellJammer charging towards Teldin's ship called Julia. The SpellJammer kept asking the question, "Are you worthy?" to Teldin, who answered, "Yeah." But Julia crashed into the SpellJammer nonetheless. Immediately, we learn that the coming of the Cloakmaster is foretold in Beholder prophecy aboard the SpellJammer, and that a dark time will be the result. A dark time that everyone wants to avoid, and thus wants to kill the Cloakmaster to prevent it, or take ownership of the cloak to control the ship. The Neogi immediately attack Teldin's surviving crew from the crash, but he's joined and protected by the human collective led by CassaRoc the Mighty, a human warrior. They battle the Neogi and defeat them, then travel to the Centaurs Tower for drinks, as one does. At this point, the Illithids, Neogi, and Beholders learn of the Cloakmaster's presence and intend to destroy him at their earliest opportunity. Teldin runs into Cwelanas from Krynn. She's the elven first mate from Teldin's first voyage over to Northern Ergoth from the first novel, Beyond the Moons. And it turns out she had feelings for Teldin just like he had for her. Estriss is also aboard the ship with the Illithids, though he's not trusted by his people and he's still searching for information. We discover that there's a lich named Romar, or the Fool, aboard that also wants to kill Teldin, so his enemies are numerous in the city that is on the SpellJammer's back. You can actually see the SpellJammer, that manta ray-looking ship right there, and that massive city structure on the back of it. That's the SpellJammer and the city that he's now in. Let's see. Teldin believes he's finally realizing his quest and now needs to defend his position long enough to take command of the SpellJammer and possibly stop the Second Inhuman War from continuing. The Beholders and their allies begin attacking the Neogi Tower, working on ridding themselves of their rivals before trying to claim the cloak itself. The Neogi had a spy in the form of Cwelanas, who was tortured and turned against Teldin when she was kidnapped from Krynn. She entered Teldin's room to murder him, but was fighting her instincts the whole time, and when Teldin discovered it was Neogi magic behind it all, he had the human wizard remove the magic surrounding Cwelanas. When she was healing, the Fool attacked the human tower, the Fool is that lich, attacked the human tower with his undead horde of rats and some undead Neogi. They swarmed the humans intent on killing Teldin, who narrowly escaped because of Gay, the Kender, from a few books back. She was astral traveling and discovered the Master Lich and attacked him with psionics. She stopped his assault long enough to save Teldin, but was pushed back into her body due to overexertion. She was actually trained by the Foul from a couple books back, named 169. When she and Teldin first split company, that's when she sort of became this master psionicist in her own right. Very, very powerful, and she is essential to Teldin being able to actually complete his destiny in this novel. If it wasn't for Gay, he would not have done it. So, Gay is helping Teldin as much as she can, telling him where to go to realize his full potential as Cloakmaster. While the tower was being attacked, Cwelanas was abducted again by the Neogi, and they were working with the fool, the Lich, who killed the Neogi that brought her to him after they delivered her. Teldin furiously wants to attack the Neogi tower, but the SpellJammer is insisting that he join it. The SpellJammer itself, the ship, is sentient. To do so, he needs to find the Addletum. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's a weird word that's spelled A-D-Y-L-T-U-M. So Addletum? Adiltum? I don't know. In the tail of the ship. Simultaneously, the Illithids and allies are attacking the elves, and the Beholders are still killing many Neogi. Open war has reached the SpellJammer, and outside ships have already started arriving all around it and began firing on the SpellJammer. Teldin goes to the elves for assistance to get to the Addletum, but finds a secret entrance to the Warrens, where the Fool dwells, and Cwelanas is being held. He decides to go down into it with his companions. He's beset upon by the undead, but fights through all of it until he finds the Fool and Cwelanas. The Fool demands the cloak in trade for Cwelanas, but Teldin refuses. Gay appears, and they realize the Fool is just an illusion and is somewhere else. Gay transports them all to the surface of the SpellJammer in the middle of this massive battle. They realize more and more ships have flooded the skies around the SpellJammer, joining in on the war. On the surface of the ship, all the people are fighting, the entire city itself. Lord Trebek attacks Estriss, who ultimately kills the Lord and turns away the Illithids. Then they all fight the Kasherin, which are these diseased and mummified beholders that are just like berserkers that rage and kill anything in their sight. Teldin eventually destroys them as he becomes one with the cloak and leaves with his party to find the Addletum again. They pass through the armory and see miniatures of all of the ships and all the races, statues of all the former Cloakmasters, and finally arrive at the Addletum, where Teldin has to fight the Guardian, a giant Spakil in the form of an Illithid. He defeats it and sits on the Helm, which then merges him with the SpellJammer. The elf captain that was helping them attacks and kills Teldin, and then the Fool reveals himself, as he was invisible watching the whole time, and attacks and kills the elf. Teldin's consciousness is unified with the SpellJammer and realizes its history and fate. The broken sphere was once called Oyan, which housed 18 worlds that existed for millennia. The outermost world was populated by the Shtarg, which made war on the other planets. The mages and kings of the worlds united and created the Spakil, which merged into the first SpellJammer and collected all peoples who wanted to leave the war. Upon leaving, the Phlogiston entered the gateway left behind by the SpellJammer and exploded on contact with the sun, destroying all life and breaking the sphere, creating the broken sphere. The SpellJammer lived and died over the millennia as it moved through the Phlogiston and explored new worlds. The current SpellJammer is named Krynn, and Teldin's consciousness then connects with Gay. The Fool attacks the elf officer Stardon that murdered the Cloakmaster, and Cwelanas remembers him clutching his amulet, believing it to be his lich phylactery. The Cloakmaster appears as pure energy, and as the Fool tosses the dead elf to the floor, they engage in a massive battle of magic and melee. Cwelanas leaps at the Fool, tearing his necklace away and throwing it to the Cloakmaster, who then destroys it, and suddenly a rift in reality opens, and Lord Maug, a Tanaree, appears and consumes the Master Lich. He leaves, and the Cloakmaster tells Cwelanas that she is the next pilot of a new SpellJammer that this SpellJammer created, called a Small Jammer, because it's smaller. All right, so she must take their friends to it and flee immediately, as this SpellJammer will be destroyed in the second unhuman war raging all around them. They leave reluctantly, and the Cloakmaster and Gay battle together as the war continues, slowly destroying the SpellJammer as they suffer massive casualties. The inhabitants stop warring with each other and begin defending the SpellJammer together, realizing that they're all going to die if they don't. As Cwelanas arrives in the garden and sees the small jammer, she is attacked by the Neogi wizard Bilatha, who originally captured her from Krynn and corrupted her against Teldin Moore. They battle with the undead Neogi, and Cwelanas, with the help of the new Helm and cloak the Cloakmaster gave her, defeated them. But the battle raging outside broke the doors that were meant to allow her to leave with the SpellJammer. The battle continues outside as the SpellJammer is slowly being even more destroyed and broken down. And like all the towers where all the different races live are all crumbling one at a time through the battle. It races into the broken sphere and battles its way through, finally building its energy into a supernova with the dying sun of the broken sphere after Cwelanas escaped with her friends in the SpellJammer due to a broken wall from the battle. The SpellJammer explodes, destroying all involved with the unhuman war, and reignites the sun, sealing the broken sphere and rebirthing the now impenetrable sphere. As Cwelanas watches from the small jammer, she sees the gnome forces finally arrive with Gamja, his old friend, again from the first book and a couple others, at the lead. He learns of Teldin's fate and openly weeps for the death of his friend. Estriss sees the rebirth and knows that Teldin is still alive, and Cwelanas feels Teldin's song, his sort of spirit, his essence, through the phlogiston. Teldin is reborn with the SpellJammer into a new reality to celebrate and protect life. As an ending, it's a bit too "and they lived happily ever after" for me, but it was an interesting end. It sort of reminded me how I ended a campaign by having a character turn into a god. It was the biggest sort of mailing it in ending that I ever gave, and it really led to nothing. Kind of like this series of books. The universe they all live in is still the same, and nothing was really accomplished except the rebirth of the broken sphere and the SpellJammer into a new and different reality. Pretty hollow. This book was much more of a chore for me to read. It spent so much time talking about motivation that not much actually happened in the book. It felt like a Hemingway novel with tons of extraneous description of battles and settings. I suppose it's nice to clearly see what's happening in your mind, but I could have done with less of it. It also never really said what happened to everyone who survived, which leads you to want to know since Teldin took so much effort in saving them all. But alas, we will never know because no further novels in SpellJammer exist. If you enjoy SpellJammer as a setting, you should read this book. If you've invested yourself in reading the preceding 5 novels, read the book. If you have not read any SpellJammer novels before, I cannot in good conscience recommend this book for you. There are a few that are good, and there are a few in this cycle, in this sextet, that are not good. If you have time and desire, well, there are better series for you to explore than this. And it's just, that's kind of it. So, what do you guys have to say? Are you interested in new SpellJammer D&D 5e products coming out? I am not. I have zero interest in SpellJammer after reading this final book. It's just, I don't know. I was excited for it. Like there was like 2, maybe 3 books in this entire 6 book series that I thought were interesting. But after this ending, and this book in particular was just poorly written in my opinion, I just have no interest. It's just nothing happens. Everyone was searching for Teldin. They all found him. Everyone was searching for this mysterious and all-powerful SpellJammer. And as soon as Teldin found it, everyone was already there. And then everyone else that was looking for it suddenly found it and destroyed it. So what the hell was the point of the whole 6 books when you look back on it? It never explained how the Rygar at the very beginning had the ultimate helm, which is the cloak that she then gave to Teldin, how she got it. It never explained who the creators were, except for the inhabitants of this, what was once the broken sphere. But then how could he return the cloak to them? Like, they don't exist anymore. And so the whole thing was meant for him to find the SpellJammer and then destroy the SpellJammer to recreate the broken sphere into new life that is now sealed off from the rest of the universe. There's no way in or out of it. And then he appears in a new reality? Like, what? That doesn't, it's just stupid. And it made such big focus on the relationships that he had with all these different women in all these books. The majority of them betrayed him. 2 of them still consider him friends and love and take care of him, Gay and Cwelanas. But then he can't be with any of them because he fucking died. Or sorry, he died. It doesn't make any sense the way they went. All of his nearest and dearest friends all died, except for the Gamja, the big hippopotamus guy. And he's just in charge of an army of gnomes, which seems to just lead to nowhere. Like they didn't even show up for the battle. The whole thing is so convoluted and strange, and I think it suffers in the same way the sequel trilogy of Star Wars suffered by having different writers addressing each of the books in their own way. It just made for one massive convoluted story that made zero logical sense in the end. Very disappointing after spending so much time reading 6 of these damn books and enjoying 2 of them a lot and 1 of them kind of. So, you only played SpellJammer 1 time, but like the concept of taking Dragonlance characters and rules to a planet, a blank slate of what they'll do. I mean, you can just take any character to any Prime Material homebrew world and get the same impact. So I can't, in my good conscience, I cannot say that SpellJammer is the best option for that when you could just get to 18th level as a mage and have the gods teleport you off of the planet because you're too powerful. Like, because that's what happens. You get too powerful and the gods kick your butt out. Let's see. Just realized you played SpellJammer but never read it, and you've read Dragonlance but never played it. Hey, Sean. Thanks for joining live, by the way. That's kind of funny. I mean, if you've played SpellJammer and you like it, I definitely recommend the books, because it's just about SpellJammer. The first book is really a Dragonlance novel, though, which is why I really loved it. From what you understand, they removed the phlogiston. Yeah, because it's no longer the phlogiston, it's now the astral plane. Let's see, Sean, it depends on the crystal sphere you're in for the gods. Oh, so he said, if SpellJammer and Dragonlance are in the same universe, do they have the same gods? So the way that SpellJammer worked originally in 1st and 2nd edition was that each crystal sphere that floated throughout the phlogiston, throughout space, the way I saw it was each solar system within each, that was contained in a little crystal sphere. Each of those were their own, campaign world. So you had one for Greyhawk, you had one for Forgotten Realms, you had one for Dragonlance, you had one for everywhere else. All of the campaign worlds. And then, tons of homebrew ones. And then inside each of those spheres, the way 1st edition and 2nd edition had it working was that all of the rules of that campaign were intact only within that sphere. So all of the gods of those realms had control in the sphere only. So for Dragonlance, all the gods operated within the Dragonlance. The Krynn space is what they called the sphere. They all operated within that. But you would have bleeding in and out of each crystal sphere from space travelers. That's just like the Illithid, for example, that are found in Taladas came from space. And you have the different planets and moons of Krynn, but also the different planets of Krynn, which are primarily the neutral gods. They're not actual gods. They're just literal rocks, floating through space, wild space, which is the space within a crystal sphere. And they have a whole bunch of different space travelers on them. Even the sun itself in Krynn space has creatures living on it, though they're like fire minions and stuff like you'd find in Taladas. So, yes, the gods exist, but they are contained to each of their spheres. And then you could travel through the phlogiston, which is this rainbow space stuff that has currents that help you go faster or slower to get to these other spheres and stuff. It's very convoluted. In 5th edition, they changed it so that there is one universal multiverse of laws and realities, and it is all just one universe. Inside that universe, you have the astral plane, which you normally could travel to, but you were sort of connected by this almost umbilical cord. If it was severed, you were just trapped in the astral plane, just floating freely. But with SpellJammer, you can actually travel through the astral plane with your physical body, with the SpellJammer machines themselves. And so that's what took place at the phlogiston. And again, they are homogeneity. Is that the word? Homogeneity? Anyway, they're making everything the same. So, Takesis is now Tiamat in every single one of the campaign worlds. Bahamut is Paladine in all of the worlds, you know, and I mean, you could even look at it as vice versa, where there is no Paladine, there is no Techesis, it's just Tiamat and Bahamut. So that's a little bit of a bummer to me, because that removes whatever special characteristics any individual campaign had that they preserved in previous editions, but 5th edition is changing everything. And that's just the way it is now. Everything is the same. Nothing is special, except everyone is special, because everyone's superhero in 5th edition. It's really hard to kill people. Characters. So, anyway. Derek, how you doing, man? Your group has acquired a SpellJammer galleon and has attempted flying it and failed. Oh, no. They need to repair it. They're currently in starport at southern western Salamnia in your current game. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm interested in the idea of playing SpellJammer, but I would want to play SpellJammer in a previous edition where the integrity of a campaign world is intact within their own little crystal sphere. I really don't like the idea of everything being melded together and being the exact same everywhere. That's boring to me, you know? Anyway, so Chris, the ultimate Helm, more like the ultimate Yeah. Well, the ultimate Helm is literally the cloak. And it's so weird because, like, the only artifacts that were really needed for him to merge his consciousness with the SpellJammer itself was the ultimate Helm, which he got at the very first novel from the Rygar crash ship, and this medallion that Gay gave him in a couple books back. But the medallion was just being used to find the ultimate Helm, the cloak. It had no suggestion that it was anything more important. It's just this author decided to make it integral to the whole uniform of the Cloakmaster. And it had to be Teldin because he was destined somehow. But that only came about in this book as well, even though a couple books back, they suggested that he had some sort of greater destiny. It wasn't until this one that was fully clarified. I did like in this novel how they clarified the broken sphere and the origin of the SpellJammer, and they really sort of dug into that history. It was only a handful of pages long, but it was, sorry, I'm like spitting everywhere. But it was enough that it made you feel like, okay, finally I get it. Finally, they're explaining everything to me. Like, you had to go 6 books in to get the explanation that they lead you into in the first book, which is way too long, in my opinion, to have to, wade through to get any type of information. But finally, they give it all to you. But, like, the very beginning of the book, you get to the SpellJammer. And the whole rest of the book is just battles and machinations on the SpellJammer. And that's it. It's ridiculous. There's like tons of different parties vying for the cloak, but that was the same with every other book. So it doesn't make this SpellJammer populace any more special or not special. And like, it's just open warfare on the SpellJammer. There's no peace or anything. It's just so obscure. And everyone just seemed to be able to find the SpellJammer that it took 6 books for Teldin Moore to find. And he had the ultimate Helm. Like, of all the weird things, like every character he ran across that was also searching for the SpellJammer suddenly found it before Teldin found it. But how? How are they any more special or well-prepared or informed than Teldin was? The whole book is about Teldin. It just really bothered me that Estriss, for example, this Illithid that he sort of befriended, I think in like book 2, got to the SpellJammer and was integrated within the society on the SpellJammer before Teldin ever got there. But just the book previous, he was like still searching and he had no idea where it was and he had no access to all the information that Teldin had, and it still took Teldin longer to get there. Like, what? No, it's just totally illogical. It's totally ridiculous. John, how you doing? Thanks for joining live. Oh, thanks, man. This is more SpellJammer than DragonLance discussion, but it started with DragonLance, so I'm counting it. Do what you want. It's your world. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's all your stuff. You're glad I read the books, so you do not have to. Yeah, you're welcome, man. Let's see, you were wondering if it would be an actual helmet or a ship's helm. No, the helm... the helms are actually like this captain's seats, as it were, right? Like it's more like the navigator's seat. That's like what powers a SpellJammer. The ultimate helm, the phrase title, is referring to the cloak that controls the original SpellJammer, and it's like the first cloak that controls a SpellJammer. And the thing is, you can control helms, SpellJammer helms, by just using magic. But the original SpellJammer is special because it was the very first spacefaring ship in the universe, and it's intelligent. And so you need something more in order to merge your consciousness with it in order to control it. Otherwise, it's just going to do what it wants to do, which is kind of weird. So one of the only SpellJammer products you have is Krynn Space. It's a good one. That's a good one. I like it a lot. It's fun. There's an old red dragon that likes to tear apart spaceships. Yeah, I mean, there's radiant dragons in space in the Phlogiston that'll tear apart your ships. And this is the other part that bugs me. 2 books back was The Radiant Dragon, which showed Teldin Moore turning into a radiant dragon with the use of the ultimate helm, his cloak, right? So if he could do that, and he decimated an entire fleet as the dragon, why didn't he just turn into a dragon in the next 2 books and decimate the threats that were in front of him? If he's capable of doing that, and he knows he's capable of doing that, why didn't he do it? And I understand why narratively, because of course you want a story to unfold and you don't want him to be a super badass the whole time. But then why give him that power in the first place? So it's just one of those examples of the different authors realizing what was given to them and how they're supposed to carry the story and being like, that's going to make it too easy, so we're just never going to mention that again. Like, what are you doing? Oh, it's just so ridiculous, the whole thing. And like there's this whole elven culture on the back of the SpellJammer that actively disbelieves Teldin is the Cloakmaster. Like, he has the cloak. He has the necklace thing. He's like showing them tricks that he can do, and they're like, no, I still don't believe you. The whole time, the whole book, they just don't believe him. He's like the center of everything, and they're just like, nah, that's not him. What? Makes no sense at all. It's so ridiculous. Ugh. All right. Well, I was disappointed by the ending of this whole series. Like wildly disappointed. It's like from the first book, I was super hyped and I was just on board. I loved it. It was amazing. And you go to the last one and it's the exact opposite. You're just like left like, what? What? Huh? Why? It's so obscure and strange. And like have him reborn, but stay in the reality that he had existed in. Why are you making him go to a different reality? Like, what's the point of that? If all the other SpellJammers that were reincarnated in the exact same reality, why was Teldin done in a different one? It's just so weird and pointless and like meaningless and hollow and just worthless. Elves equal Vulcans. SD 2257, skip SpellJammer. There are other ways to get to other worlds like rifts, spells, etc. Besides, picked up DragonLance Deluxe Edition. Oh, so did I, man. I can't wait. I can't wait to try that board game, Warriors of Krynn. I hope it's good. I hope it's good. Fingers crossed. Yeah, you're right. I mean, you can just teleport to other planets. You can have spells that will do it. You can travel through different planes of existence to get to other places if you want. You don't need space to do it. And in fact, TSR created SpellJammer in 2nd edition, which you could, not SpellJammer. They created Planescape in 2nd edition, which is also another way to travel to different locations. So, I don't know, man. It's just so weird. The concept of multiple authors handling the same storyline like telephone game works as Star Wars Episode 7, 8, and 9 demonstrated. Abso-flippin'-lutely. Absolutely. Oy. All right. That's all I wanted to talk about. Complain about. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to my review of The Ultimate Helm by Russ T. Howard. What did you think of the final novel in the sextet? Did you have a favorite novel in the entire collection? You can always email me at info@dlsaga.com or leave a comment below. I would like to take a moment and remind you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Ring the bell to get notified about upcoming videos and click that stupid like button. This all goes to help other Dragonlance fans learn about this channel and its content. This channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world of the Dragonlance Saga, even when we're talking SpellJammer. So thank you for joining me in this celebration. My name is Adam with Dragonlance Saga, and until next time, Salon Javar. I think we do the young adult reading books, Chris, next.